day starts, it also means a brand new start for the Big Finish monthly ranges. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the most recent story from the brand new run of Fifth Doctor stories, The Starmen, which is the first episode of the new Fifth Doctor trilogy, with your favourite Fifth Doctor companions. Of most years, the Fifth Doctor does tend to kick off the new year of audios on Big Finish. As per usual, this is the standard monthly range format where we have the stories that last for 2 hours, 4 episodes long, and this time we have once again the reoccurring cast that was previous to last year, exactly the same one with Nyssa, Tegan and Adric, which I do believe is something that did first get introduced last year and also in the Fifth Doctor box set as well the previous year before. So this is once again one of those standard Fifth Doctor stories with the same format. As per usual, in the description below, I will leave the link to go and buy this release from the Big Finish website. It is out now and it is $14.99. I do believe it is $10.99, something like that, $12.99 for the digital download version as well. So moving on to the story details first, we have a few things to get through. It is written by Andrew Smith. He's a Big Finish regular. He's done quite a lot of producing, directing, as well as writing for Big Finish in the past, so he is pretty much the definition of a Big Finish regular. It is directed by Barnaby Edwards, who is a fabulous director. He's done a lot of different Big Finish in the past, mainly the harder stories such as Fallen Angel and things. Yeah, he's a very talented director, as well as nice person overall. And yeah, he's doing the same directing for the majority of the next few upcoming releases that I'm in fact going to be reviewing, including the rest of the Fifth Doctor ones, the Contingency Club and the other one, as well as the Torchwood 1 box set as well. So he's been redirecting a lot recently. To the cast, we have the Fifth Doctor, of course, played by Peter Davison. He was great for this story. Once again, I've really been enjoying the Fifth Doctor's work in recent releases. I think that he's had quite a lot to do. I think that he's definitely got something that's a little bit sort of away from his previous sort of persona on TV. Not that really his era is one of which that I remember quite well from watching it, but yeah, I think that his era on the show is a little bit of a bumpy ride, but Big Finish have once again sort of solidified his character, and I find him quite an enjoyable Doctor, especially when he's around sort of his companions, a bit more of a family than just a standard companion relationship. He has quite a few nice lines in there and quite a few nice scenes as well. He is quite known as sort of one of the innocent Doctors that's quite young, and once again, they do tend to play on that a little bit, and we have a few little references to the TV series itself. However, he does tend to get given dark plots, and with this story, we have a little bit of sort of what reminds me very much of the Fifth Doctor era, as well as the classic era as a whole, and I think that definitely that this took the Doctor in a little bit of a new direction, at the same time sort of keeping the classic elements in there. Companions, of course, this era of Doctor Who was notorious for having, in fact, one of the biggest companion televised units in the whole of the series, because of course we have 3 whole companions, which I wouldn't like to see the new series try and struggle with that now, because I think that we have the struggle of even trying to write 1 decent companion, let alone 3. But I do think that the TV show itself even struggled with it back in the 1980s. I don't think they sort of had something that each individual one of them could do. However, with Big Finish, at least the ones that I've listened to so far, they all tend to go off and do their own thing. They all tend to have something to contribute. It's definitely something that is nice to see in these stories. So of course we have Matthew Waterhouse playing Adric, a Marmite character that a lot of people hate, a lot of people like. People think that he was unlikable on TV, a little bit annoying, a little bit whiny, a little bit like Mel. However, both Mel and Adric have sort of developed this own relationship on the audio format, and they've allowed to sort of take their character a little bit further. This is definitely something for this story. This whole story, in fact, the scenario is based around Adric and the Doctor wanting to sort of train Adric to sort of have this math side of him, of course, because he's very mathematical, and he wants to sort of get him to learn different things because he is quite young, and this story is very much based around that. And once again, in this story, we have something that I didn't really expect happening, where Jack meets somebody and they get along very well together, and it is of course a female, and they sort of react together very nicely. There is a little bit of an interest in there. We have that whole interest going throughout the story. It's quite mathematical, as I say, much like how it was portrayed in the classic series, and it's nice to just sort of see something a little bit fresh, where even in this story, I sort of believe the relationship that he had with Autumn, even though it was only like 2 hours long. I believe this more than, say, a new series relationship, because it had actual something sort of floating with it and something a little bit natural about it that I really did like. And I think that that was definitely down to the writing as well as the directing as well. The way that we had certain stage directions of having them say certain things to each other at certain points. It worked very nicely, especially at the very end as well, which I'll come on to in a little bit, which was a tad sad. We had Nyssa played by Sarah Sutton, which I know that she's one of those ones that's quite popular. She's of course an alien companion, and I think the Big Finish definitely like to home in on the fact that she's from an alien planet, especially in the previous ones such as Aquitaine, the Peterloo Massacre, the Waters of Amsterdam. They tended to have something about them where I do believe when I listened to them, every single story referenced back to Traken and her being a lady of Traken and things, and sort of her customs and her ideas on her own planet. And I really like that because it never sort of forgotten. It made the effort to say this is where she's from, this is what she's like, this is what her background is. I don't really have much of that Traken stuff in this story, to be honest. If anything, Nessa is sort of one of those characters that's left a little bit to the back. Not too much though, however. And I think that she was enjoyable. She had a few little nice moments in there, and once again, she was just generally Nessa, a nice person and a nice companion, and there's nothing really too much that I can say about her because she's just nice overall. Tegan, of course, played by Janet Fielding, another one of those Marmite characters that a lot of people like, a lot of people hate. And then in this story, we get the stereotypical stuff. Literally, if we had a bucket list of Tegan-related things, at the very start of the story, when they land, we of course have Tegan going, "This still isn't getting me back to Heathrow," and things like that. You have that reoccurring arc that she always had at the beginning that I've never understood, and I don't think Big Finish understand either. Just like to sort of carry it on as a little bit of a joke, because you've got this whole time, you've got this whole of space to exploit, she always wants to get back to Heathrow, and I think we sort of find it a little bit annoying but funny at the same time that she still constantly goes on. Once again, I think the Big Finish have definitely toned down her character. She had things to do in this story, and overall she was enjoyable once more. Other general characters for this story, we had Sue Holderson, who's playing Carla Tace, Sophie Wu, who's playing Autumn Tace, and then we had a few general other people as well. Peter Guinness, who of course played Rovers. Now he was the main villain of the story of the Starmen. Now, the Starmen are a very interesting concept because they're not from this universe, they're something completely different. And it shows the way that two different universes can clash, and sort of the sciences of those two different universes don't mix together and they really fit in with real life. They're not very visual. I think that if this was in the actual TV series, they would struggle to probably pull it off because it's sort of a different program in a way of you can't really adjust to what exactly they are. They're a humanoid shape, however made of stars, and they do a very good representation of this on the cover artwork, and I think that definitely helped me throughout this story to sort of understand what they were like. So the general setting for this story is they arrive on a planet that is sort of just outside the Milky Way called Gallius U, and they find out that basically it's a massive observatory. It's one of the biggest ones of that time, and they're observing different things, and they've sent out a craft to go and do these scientific things, and it's not came back, and they've lost all contact. One of those average plots in a way, and of course it comes back, there's nobody on board, but somehow it's still moving towards the ship, trying to sort of dock on with the planet. And yeah, it's sort of one of those mysterious ones where we sort of wonder what's exactly going on. It turns out that when they go inside, all the crew are dead. And yeah, it's been done before, admittedly. However, this story had a new twist on it, especially with the Starmen itself, and I think that definitely throughout it, it sort of established itself as its own idea. What I really liked about this one is it's because it's not in the distant future, although it is to an extent. It's when we've sort of developed this space travel idea. However, it's not on massively sci-fi, it's not going out there into different universes and things like that. However, it's just sort of when humanity is moving on, trying to find different planets, and we now can sort of build in out of space, but we still haven't got that far to travel really far into the distance, and they've developed this sort of thing which is a leap drive, which they can use to sort of forward time and transfer ships to different areas and sort of travel a lot faster. So it's not exactly completely in the future and completely old space travel and things like that. It's sort of the developments which I think that we don't see as much. We tend to always just go for that when humanity has it, when humanity has all this scientific stuff and can do all these different things. But with this, it's sort of the to be confirmed work in progress style of scientific stuff for the future, and that I really like. References near the very start of the story that this is one of the biggest scientific leaps that they've ever done, and I think that that is just generally an interesting concept to start on. Of course, the early parts of the story is trying to find out what happened to the people on the Johannes Kepler, and I think that that's the main ship that actually went missing and things with all these people on, of course, and why they died. So they bring on a few things from on board, such as the people that died, and they go to do the autopsy with this robot, and of course things goes on because they're being taken over by this creature which sort of forms as a gas and a coral at the same time and sort of can transfer between different things in different states. And it's an interesting idea, and of course later on in the story you find out that this coral is related to the Starmen and things. And I think that it sort of throws the different ideas around there, because we have the idea of needing to excavate these people to find out what happened, and then later on we have the invasion, and we have the Doctor needing to go out on this other ship to try and find what people did this to the others. And yeah, I think that it's, when you sort of say it out loud, it doesn't really sound exactly original to start with. However, the prospects of the Starmen and the ideas that they had sort of brought something new to the story, which I really liked, and it was generally an entertaining one. When the Doctor and Tegan go in the ship with the other people to try and find out what happened, they bump into this other alien that is in fact been sort of a victim of the Starmen, and we find out exactly who the Starmen are. Then they get captured by the Starmen themselves and taken to their main place where they're enslaving these people to try and get them to work to mine this different gas and this coral that they need to live off, because the Starmen sort of crave this resource that they definitely need to survive and things. And I think that it's an interesting idea, once again, having the ideas of slavery in there. It's a little bit of a dark plot, but isn't really touched on too much. It may be nice to see a little bit more on that slavery side of things, because we do tend to go there and then leave again straight away, but how they've included it into the story, an interesting one also. And then of course you can't say that an alien is from another universe that has different dimensions and things on Big Finish without them in fact travelling to that universe, which is exactly what happens to Tegan and this other victim of the slavery, and then Nyssa ends up going as well, and I do believe Adric goes later on, along with his interest in the story, which is Autumn Tace. And yeah, we go to, I think everybody ends up there except the Doctor actually, which is a little bit interesting. But yeah, it's nice to see, because Big Finish can do that. They don't need the budget to develop this whole unscientific area in this universe that defies science, because you can imagine it yourselves in your mind, which is a very good use of audio, I guess. I think it's very interesting. They may as well do it when they don't even need to create it themselves, and I think that it's nice to see that. It's an interesting idea as well, seeing how the Starmen have in fact affected their own universe by using up the suns and sort of draining them of all their power in order to in fact survive, and being drained from these stars and actually using the energy. And I think that it really does show the Starman is a very interesting villain, and I think that in a way it sort of leaves them to have a little bit of an open idea for the future where they could come back. And I think that generally for this story, considering they've never been in it before, at least I've never encountered them before, I don't know if they've been in Big Finish before, they probably haven't though, I think that they're an interesting concept, and something of which that over the 2 hours of this story I fully got to understand. I got to understand their aims, what they wanted to do, what they wanted to then go and do after that, what they needed to do to survive, and everything like that. I found that they were a full padded out alien that was sort of with the threat in there as well, and I think that they have potential to come back, I guess, because of the idea of the having the different states of being the Starmen themselves and then the coral and the gas as well. It really does make them quite a threat, especially the way that they can take over the people, and especially sort of take over the dead bodies as well, and actually reanimate them and use the bodies a little bit, once again, I guess like a zombie, where they can sort of use the person. And I think that once again that is a concept that's been used before, however applying it to the Starmen makes it something different, and yeah, I like it. I think that they could come back in the future. It's an interesting idea, and I think that if you're a Fifth Doctor fan, you may enjoy it, because it's sort of a little bit of that classic element in there that is something that's been seen before, however brings something new to the table also. Guinness, who plays Rovus, does an excellent job also. He's sort of the main central Starman, who's the main, literally the main controller, and I think that he brought something to the story again that added an atmosphere to it, and generally overall the cast itself was flawless. I don't think I've in fact listened to a monthly range story where I've been that engaged in the cast. Throughout probably since episode 2, I knew exactly who the characters were, I knew who Autumn was, I knew what she did, I knew who her mother was as well, and then I sort of got used to the characters, and I think that that definitely worked, considering the fact that we have one of the biggest companion teams as well. On top of that, all the characters had something to do, and definitely I found this story very easy to engage to by knowing what these different people do and what their hobbies are and things like that, and what their interests are and their employment. I think it sort of worked a lot easier. The smaller elements of it I couldn't really remember as much, but however with this I sort of knew all the smaller characters also, which I guess shows it was a very strong script. Overall for this release, I think that if you're a Fifth Doctor fan, you'll probably enjoy it. I think that it's got some very nice elements in there, especially the relationship idea of having Adric and Autumn together, which may be something that you may not like, but it does in fact work quite well, surprisingly. And the Fifth Doctor is just excellent as well. So as you're a monthly range fan in general, you'll probably like this one also, because it's generally a nice story. Not really one for a Big Finish fan that's been a fan for a very long time either. It's not exactly the most complicated of stories ever, so very much something for a beginner also. You don't need any backlog from the past or any context. So yeah, this is a very good place to start. Brilliantly directed, brilliantly written, and overall a fairly good release. So thanks for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a big like, and please subscribe if you're not already. If any questions, please do leave them below and be sure to answer them at some point in the near future. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all next time. So thanks for watching, and bye for now.